John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
I must say, Watson, I'm quite flattered. It's a lovely homage to my methodology. Why apply it to a case that's already solved?
That door was closed.
Was it?
Carly Purcell didn't deserve what's happened to her. I just thought if I looked at the evidence one more time, I don't know.
You could what, rewrite history? She already confessed.
What is that? Spaghetti in a mug? I take it that there's still no clean bowls or plates. How do you deal with cases not working out the way you want them to?
The only promise a puzzle makes is an answer. Liking the answer doesn't factor in. In our line of work, it mustn't.
You're right. Hey, sorry I'm late. What's wrong?
Promise me you won't mention this to anyone. Anyone.
Yeah.
So, newbies, here's the deal. This is a non-violent direct action protest. Emphasis on non-violent. Clear?
Our council elders had a call with our lawyers in Washington, D.C. last night. They cannot stop the pipeline.
So raise your hand if you've ever been on the front lines of a direct action before. Okay, this is for all of you, but especially you. Under no circumstances do you throw anything at pipeline security or a policeman. And do not provoke them in any way whatsoever. Is that clear? Okay. So, we're on the front lines. And somebody grabs you. What's the first thing that you do?
Ask somebody for help?
No, you need to throw your camera to somebody on our side. You need to protect the truth. You have a responsibility to tell the truth about what's going on here. You are responsible. Each and every one of you.
Chun-Shi. Strong warriors never stand down, even in the face of defeat.
Welcome. It's Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth, with you once more. Thank you as always for allowing me to be a part of the journey. I do sincerely mean that whenever I say that, because I know full and well that there's 168 hours in a week, and investing any of that time, which is so precious these days with so many variables out there, in what I've got to say and offer, let alone whether you accept it and it adds value to your journey. It's an enormous honor on whatever scale or level it is, so I really do appreciate that. And I'm coming to you from the land down under that's enjoying our summer, so if you're feeling the cold wherever you are, then I hope this gives you some warmth, because we've had some really glorious weather that's sort of changing at the moment. So I'm doing this a bit early in my week because I've got a bit of a window to get some stuff done. And in that glorious weather of this recent weekend, there was some epic solar flares, and I hope you have gained a lot of insight, energy charge, awareness, your intuitive potential, if you've watched the series that I introduced over the weekend, is going off the charts. I myself have been feeling better than ever, and as I said in those releases, it's like I've got my old self or next level gear going. And it was really interesting because I've been brewing a lot, appreciating a lot more. I feel like my pattern recognition has gone off the charts, and being clear of what I've sort of been through for quite a long time, if not bigger scales, if you know my history and all that. And I'll do my best to not get into it because I'm in new territory for me. So this video and this appreciation of what I came to was one of the big aha moments that I got over the weekend, because as I've sort of offered, it's in me I feel the best I've ever felt, and a byproduct of that sort of body physical mastery and emotional mastery, if you've watched the series and appreciate what I've offered there, combining all the variables that make me up and all the effort. If you've appreciated the Malcolm Gladwell perspectives, especially, I've been focusing on the blink, the gut instinct and the mechanics of all that, but the variable or the book that he offers, Outliers, which is the third one I suggested, work ethic and the energy you put into stuff, for me it's always been a component that I've lived by. It must be an Aussie sort of characteristic, especially of my era, late 40s sort of thing, when we grew up in the 80s and 90s, that we always work hard down here and play hard sort of thing. And that was sort of a component with me along all my journey, whether it was working back in Burger King, making 1 million Whoppers. We call it Hungry Jacks down here in the 90s, late 80s and 90s. Or, sorry, it was the early 90s to the late 90s. I worked there 7 years, so I reckon I made 1 million Whoppers. And in that place I learned how to meditate, doing active meditation and stuff. and using my empathy to read sort of people and characteristics of people at 15 and stuff. So I appreciated a lot of me over the journey. I've had all these components that haven't been aligned and put together, but getting into the spiritual sort of theme that I have been in since 2008 on, in a degree of focus that I'd never put into what I've done in the prior to that. I was between the working at Burger King, Hungry Jack's down here in Australia. I got into IT. I did a module in, we call it TAFE down here, but it wasn't university, it was like college, I guess, for the rest of you guys. And the last module, one of my variables I did, which was called Geographical Information Systems, which is GIS before it was really implemented in the world. We were doing it like surveying the ground and stuff because I was really good at maths, and I got into IT just before Y2K, so I got my first job and I didn't know much. It was chucked in the deep end sort of thing, but I worked very hard and I created a lab for myself, and I learned a lot about problem solving and what data to incorporate into pattern recognition. Then originally in the problem solving sort of aspect of that, I created all the problems up front because I felt like I needed a reference of experience to be able to deal with it in the real time sort of thing, because it was, you know, if you're paid to solve things and have an expectation about you, it can be quite intimidating and daunting. So I found that mechanics early on was a great ally to be prepared for things. But what I found is that the vast majority of the problems that come up, you have no reference for. You have to use your genius in the moment, sort of, and that's where experience is the key to wisdom. So, and I've said this in the past, but one of my most profound realizations was it wasn't so much I needed to know every problem before it happened. It was about accessing the resources available to me to be able to work out what was going on and trust my ability to find solutions. So I was like a systems admin early on for 4 years and stuff, and I built my trust and experience via that reference of that environment early on. And what I learnt was, once I got familiar with things and started getting the basics of how to connect the computer to the network and stuff like that, back using Windows NT in 95, it wasn't as easy as the computers now. They're a lot more effortless and self-managed compared to then. It was very, very mechanical and very tough. There was no plug and play in Windows and stuff. And it was interesting because this video gets into encryption, and I remember there was a era where you couldn't use sort of Microsoft in countries that had export bans because of the encryption, but then all of a sudden the encryption, they didn't care, right? It was like you could export it because, you know, what they had on the back end, they worked out how to decrypt everything over the internet back then. This was very early 2000s. So I think that was Windows 2000. They never had the ban in the computer of export license to certain countries, say Iran and stuff like that. So I know that variable was like encryption. They had the ability to decrypt everything back then. But yeah, what I was getting to as a pattern recognition and problem solving was I went from proactive creating problems to passive and reacting to the moment because I could trust myself, and that's when Google came in. And what I realized about, say, Microsoft networks and stuff, there were millions of networks around the world, and everyone, and the realization I had was the problems that people experience, and there's probably millions of network admins around the world that are having the same issues. So it was not a matter of knowing everything up front, it was the ability to keyboard ninja and find everything and track every problem down. So it was about asking good questions in the search engine, which Google in 2004 was very organic. Even before that, it was very organic and pure. There was no bias in the algorithms to weight it towards people that, or companies that paid for having their thing higher up in the search. That's why Google makes a lot of money. So back when it was pure, it was very organic, a bit like YouTube before Google took it over in 2008 and 9 and stuff, and we've got this GMO Frankenstein algorithm sort of stuff that we have to deal with now. So I feel very fortunate that I came through these eras, and I have this very, after I got my IT basics going, I really launched, and once I got very solid in the network I was involved in, it became very, I outgrew that ponds very quickly. And then I got into IT networking and consulting and systems engineer and senior systems engineer, because then I could go into any environment and interpret what's going on, identify the issue and the problem, and then solve it, and then earn the corporation that I was working for a lot of money. And I really relished that era, particularly 2005 to 2007, because I left that first job and I worked with this awesome consulting firm and had some amazing geniuses that I had as allies. And I lament that era because I left for my ex to go to Sydney, and that was a whole journey in itself. But that was my richest time in IT, and I felt very fortunate because I worked with some people that were CCIEs. If you know Cisco, they were like the highest level beings and stuff. It's one guy in particular that I had enormous respect for, and the other guys I worked with were profound as well, and we just got along so well. It was like a real camaraderie team. One of the guys dealt with the biggest EMC network in Australia, which was it was the biggest bank at the time, mortgage data center. So it was in a terrorist protection site with 500,000 litres of diesel under the car park for generators and stuff, and probably a national security threat sort of thing if that went down, you know, like if everyone's mortgage data was lost, it was profound. So at the time it was the biggest EMC SAN. If you know EMC, it's I don't know, it's 20 years later now sort of thing, but it was that sort of level guy, CCIEs. I worked with a hacker from Europe that was a genius. So he was probably the smartest one. He was a security guy that would go in and network, like big corporations would pay him to threat assessment, like try and hack the network and stuff. And he was very cool. And another guy from Africa who he's the one that actually got the job at this consulting firm, because I worked with him for a little while and stuff. And the thing he liked about me was he came from Africa, Zambia, and he looked like Wesley Snipes and stuff. And what I learned from him in that era was how big a relationship China had to Africa, because he went to China, and this is what I found phenomenal, and he loved me because I got this. He went to China to learn electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, one of those sort of engineering things. And when he got there, he didn't realize he had to do it in Chinese, all right? So you imagine you have to learn engineering and Chinese at the same time, and he blitzed it. And I was just like, holy shit, dude, that's freaking badass, epic. Like, learning Chinese on its own is profound, let alone doing it in university in real time. And that's where I've just got this appreciation of different cultures and where people come from and the context of individuals and stuff. And he appreciated me because I saw him, and I always love seeing the truth in people and their genius. And I did a video called Empathy Sonar a couple of years ago where it's about scanning the reality, and in that I suggested that you can accelerate your development by perceiving the journeys of others and incorporating them in yours, like a matrix download, you know, like a skill set. And so that's why I got the job with him, because we could work together in systems. And I just saw things like that he appreciated. Plus these guys were epic, and dealing with clients, it can be tough, especially when you have to translate stuff. And I really loved translating the complex to the layman's terms or the audience I was dealing with. So I really appreciated, that uncertainty and fear that a client might have if they're responsible for the computer network and relying on someone external, going into their unknown, all right? And I would translate for them what's going on. This is the sort of time frames. This is what we've got to do. This part broke. We need to get a replacement. Just to give them sort of comfort in their uncertainty, because I would go in like a Galactic Special Forces ninja into these messed up environments and put them back together. And yeah, it was just a very rich era of me, and I was doing very well. It was very demanding, working a lot of hours. What I found also is working in fatigue. I felt like when you have a lot of energy and vitality, you have a lot of energy and you might not be as focused and stuff. And what I found being very depleted and overextended and stuff, there's this real, you get into the zone and you don't waste thoughts, you don't waste outcomes, but also because you've got a limited set of resources, you become very pure and in the zone sort of thing. So I really, when we talk about lucidity and just before you go to sleep and stuff, I appreciate all those variables because of this era of me and stuff. And while I'm wanting to offer that is, I do have a very big IT background that I left, and I won't get into that now, I've talked about it, but I was in Sydney and I worked for this corporation, and they were doing fracking with the land to coal seam gas sort of stuff, and they got bought out by this company, bigger oil company in Australia. And as soon as the corporation got attached to the network, it was like I was getting psychic attacked. And this was just after this 2008 era when everything was going epic for me and stuff was going on that would eventually lead to me being here now. And then after my IT era, I got into currency trading. I was in stock trading, but I was in a lot of financial trouble, and if I talked to financial guys about what I was doing and the scenario I was in, they would think I'm insane. But I was a bit like, I have nothing left to lose, because bankruptcy is the ultimate outcome here possibly, and if you have nothing to lose, then there's nothing to fear, and everything is potential and stuff. So this era where I'm right now, it's like I've attempted to do the right thing about everything and everyone I interact with, but I've never had the context of what is going on, let alone now opposition on Earth now and stuff, which is a bit beyond this particular video and theme. I've done many other teachings relative to those sort of things and what's been going on, and I've honestly been a bit like a hen in a fox house with all these people I've been involved with that have not been in line with our betterment and to derail us, and particularly me, because this me now on the other side of all this stuff, it feels like it's the me I should have been and should have guarded and not trusted and all this sort of stuff. But again, like I say, experience is a key to wisdom, and I'm here now to get this and at this profound time and offer all these teachings. And like I said about the intuitive potential theme that I've started, which is aimed to help people to accelerate their awareness, because to me the intuitives are the ones that are going to see it through. And this video based on Bitcoin will be an example of me employing that intuitive potential in me, taking on board all the variables that I'll offer in this video and stuff relative to my background and the wisdom I've had through my experiences with the IT background, that era trading when all this happened, and my journey into the unknown spiritual awareness that I have now, and doing all the alignment with Earth Mother and the Galactic Special Forces missions and healings, which are extremely rewarding for me to have the privilege to help someone and to get them through things and to take them where they never thought they could be. And it's been a very rich 6 months for me on many levels that has added to the brat you see before you, right? So with that intro that's a bit long, I want to get into this. And this might feel like a bit of a tangent to all the stuff I've been offering, but I think it's going to be very rich because, again, what's gone on recently with me, and if you're not across it, I guess there's a bit of a discreditation going on with me that's always been going on, because the potential with me and helping people is there. And I'll be talking about what has gone on to me, probably brewing to do some infinite potential healing releases, because I have been putting a lot on hold for a long time, and now my mechanics has gone off the charts, and I'm like lit as F and ready to rock and share and impart all this stuff. But this one is a bit of an outlier for me. But one of the very first videos released was about money, the ultimate consciousness pacifier. And this awesome being out there, shout out to you if you are listening to this, Annette. This amazing being that's been in the community for many years, in parallel to me in many ways, and has been an ally and stuff. And I've done a GSF 6 release with her. She used to have this blog. This is an awesome being called Annette O'Toole that many of you probably don't know about now, but back when I was really getting going, 2012 and 2013 and stuff, she had this incredible blog that she created on WordPress called Ascending Starseed. I forget the actual name now. And you can go to archive.org, like the Wayback Machine, and you can find a lot of the posts there still. But the unfortunate thing for her is she did 28,000 posts. She was relentless, badass keyboard ninja, supporting a lot in the community, and was like a real reference point. And there's so many that have been lost over the time, just through the censorship and removing things and stuff. But it was her income and all this sort of stuff, and she was really going well and had a huge following. I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands were following her, but she would be relentless and posting a lot and doing a variable that I've always sort of incorporated, where I offer a platform for other people, and I have this unique space where I can do that, and I've always tried to do that in the betterment for people and stuff. And yeah, and I know what it's like to have done a lot for people and they don't really appreciate it. So that's why I love honoring her all the time, because I know what she did, and many out there, many of you here probably have no idea what she did. So I would just go to www.archive.org and ascendingstarseed.wordpress or blog and stuff, and go have a look, right? But yeah, one of the very first videos I released was this video called, and I remember it was, I think it was July, August, maybe even October 2014. It was called Money, the Ultimate Consciousness Pacifier. And a lot was going on that year. First 4 months I was writing, and then I met Max Steele and did some missions with someone out there, and would do some major missions relative to the banking system and the Vatican and stuff, which one of them I couldn't find the audio yet. But amongst that, I got this real spark to make videos, because I realized people don't really read much, but they love the videos and the compilations out there, like Esoteric Agenda and 2012 Movie Online and stuff. They did huge things. So I eventually created a series called Conscious Explorer, Ancient Past, Present Task. But before I got all that going was this video, and what Annette did for me was I just put together some stuff relative to how the money system works and all that, because I appreciate it from that background. And she linked it on that blog of hers, and I had like 3,000 views and stuff, and I could feel it. It was like very activating, like I never had that attention sort of thing on me, and it was like, wow, this is crazy. And so that really got my spark to get into the video creation, because I had that sort of, I'm never governed by the outcome, but it had a beyond what I could perceive outcome for creating something that people actually watched it and appreciated it and stuff like that. So by me getting off the bench and creating, I never thought I could be a creator and stuff like that. So it was profound for me, and I'm very grateful for that and for her, and I feel it's a huge loss to us all that that happened to her, and it's been hard for her and stuff. So yeah, just always like appreciative of that, what she's done for me and her support of me, because she would support the videos that I did and stuff like that, and when we're all aligned, thinking we're all on the same team and stuff like that, when the recent era worked out everything and stuff. So that, like I said in the last video, there's Ayani perpetrators in the community that are probably in our DNA skin suit of their pillaging of us way back then, alright? So yeah, money system, IT, these eras that we're going to talk about, they've all been quite profound, and me even currency trading during it. So I've learnt a lot about all these variables that are components to this being I am now, and I've never forgotten them, including the last two videos I've offered about our intuitive potential, where I've shared a lot of the foundational components that I feel will be an ally to most of us if you incorporate them and explore those books of Malcolm Gladwell if you haven't. So I guess another thing about me, and this is where I might be a bit different, is that, and I've said this, I'm not governed by the reference of what I know. I incorporate that there could be an unknown variable in what is going on all the time. And a lot of people in the community and stuff, like I said, in that pattern recognition problem solving skill set that I learned early on, there is what we know, right? But the vastness of what we don't know, the unknown, is massive. So why would you be limited by working things out relative to what you know and not seeing the unknown as an ally, right? So if I just show you that image that I've shown you in the past, just for context right now. I'll try not to show too many images. This is going to be a pretty big video to offer. But say this is the journey of the unknown. So most people go with what they know. Discovering the unknown is quite challenging and challenging themselves. But all I'm inviting is the unknown is vast, and there's so much out there. It doesn't have to be feared, right? And then we might go and explore the unknown, and then we find resistance. If you're on the intuitive journey, this is more a money focused video. So, and then once we discover stuff, there can be resistance, and a few of us have been like help clearing the path for everyone else and stuff, right? So if I just move on. So this is the metaphor of our individual journeys into the unknown and what's out there, right? I haven't shown this one for a while, but I did it quite a while ago about what is known versus the unknown. So at the top, there's a tiny bit of what we know versus the vastness of the unknown. And so in this, I'm going to invite you to go in the unknown. There's many variables and many changes in our society that have gone on. And I will just offer they're not anything to fear, right? Because I'm going to blow your mind, I think, right, when you get through this, okay? And then see the world in a different way. I don't know what you're like, but when I discover things and I hear things like this, it's very rich. It's nothing to fear. So your body will tell you if this is true or not, right? And this will invite you to think a different level of thinking and perception, okay? This is another image that I've shown many times, and if you're new, context is a massive variable, alright? And this video is going to be an epic teaching in context, alright? Because just see in these videos, the clips that I show and all the people involved, see how they're employing what they know rather than the what is, alright? Possible, alright? And then when we come to the end, how obvious this is, right? It just takes another level of thinking to actually accept that. I'll invite you to appreciate your context now versus what you gain after this, and then how your pattern recognition goes off the charts, because then we can see what is going on, alright? It all becomes very, very obvious. Yeah, I think I'm going to rock many people's worlds with this and show you. Because I was pattern recognitioning off the charts and with the solar flares and feeling better than ever, clear of all the stuff I've been through the last 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 12 years, 20 years, right, to get this right now. And with all the context offered of me for your discernment of me and stuff, I'm actually the perfect person to offer this on many levels, alright? So if I move on. I haven't shown this for a while, but there is extreme uncertainty of what to do out there and stuff, and the path to navigate might be very confusing and stuff. But I've always felt if we have the context and the truth, then it makes navigation a lot easier. So this is a metaphor of that again, and not be set up for failure. And I'll offer some of the teachers and teachings that I've been a part of that it's no accident that you don't know about this now, because there are some very much aligned to the lack of context for us to perceive what is going on. And so that lack of context with people that claim that see everything that haven't offered it, all right? They don't want us to be able to make good decisions, right? So I'm all about empowering you to make the best decisions you can and see the reality how it is. So this video is going to be a pretty big codex for a lot of people, all right? So just move on. This is another favorite. This is conscious Tetris, all right? So what I'm aiming to do is give you some massive upgrades to your conscious Tetris and awareness to actually be able to perceive the reality how it is, and not with the corruption and vagueness or incomplete layers that you can't perceive and appreciate the reality. Maybe you don't, a lot of people don't actually want to see as well, right? And then they have to see themselves and who they've been aligned to and who they've invested in, because money is a very interesting thing, which maybe this is getting too long already, so it might be a separate video in itself, right? But yeah, context is an ally to conscious Tetris, right? And gaining the awareness layers to see what is, to navigate, alright? And then there's this one, discernment mechanics, alright? So I'm just inviting you to pattern recognition at a whole new level here, okay? And see all the variables, and this might add weight to some variables that you didn't have context for, or you were discerning, and now you need to red variables into the green. Particularly what I say about here in this video, it might be a big shuffling of components in your mechanics, alright? Another image I've always shown is the contrarian view, which if you've watched the recent videos, I said that there felt like there was a big shift in the reality on an energetic level. I made a post on Facebook about felt like the dark had exhausted itself, and potentially it's been feeling like that, right? And everyone might feel like everything's going to fall, but as a trader, I'm like feeling the shift, alright? So I think this weekend and the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have been going through the shift energetically because we've had to brace for how bad it's been, sort of thing. It doesn't mean it's over. It might be a leg down, might be a pause and stuff and all that, but I'm just sensing a shift in the reality, and I'm offering you to employ the contrarian view with everything and see things differently, alright, in your own pattern recognition, navigation of the reality. And maybe you'll have to flip who you think is good is bad and who is bad is good. And I've always offered that discern me at the highest level, alright? But also discern everyone else at that level then as well. See what I'm saying is wrong, is bullshit, as maybe trying to lead you astray so you don't have the context to navigate. Or maybe I'm trying to do the best I can to make you as potent as you can to be able to navigate the best you can in all the uncertainty going on. And there's nothing to fear, alright? There's just choices to make and paths to go at the moment, alright? Relative to the emotional mastery, like I said in the last video especially. Employ your gut and instinct as best you can as the ally it is, and all your other tech, a bit like how I said I feel at the moment. So your perception mechanics is uncorrupted and everything is obvious. You're not governed by emotions and fear and inadequate energy. You're perceiving all the variables, all that they are, not by your dogma or how you're biased about things or what you're not willing to accept. The is what it is, alright? And if you're able to accept it, free of all the emotional components with everything and stuff, then you'll be able to navigate your reality at a whole new level in this era that we're in, with so much up for grabs and stuff, right? So with all that, I just wanted to offer a lot of context of this is a awareness expansion, our infinite potential, or our intuitive potential teaching, expanding on the theme that I offered last week, and being an ally to help you seeing and processing variables and pattern recognition on next level sort of stuff. I want to get into the whole Bitcoin theme. So, quite interesting how it came to me and stuff, because I've got all my cogs going at next level sort of processing, and there's this being I've sort of offered, Sabrina Wallace, that just randomly going through all her content in different platforms such as Rumble or Odyssey or BitChute and stuff, and there was one really profound video that I came across, which might be a bit risky to put it up on this platform, but we'll see, that really gave me enormous context, which I'll offer a segment of a bit later, which then put everything into, you know, like I showed that image relative to consciousness Tetris, this one, and I'm going to try and not do too many images because it makes the production of the videos pretty daunting and stuff to get them actually made. But what I'm offering is I'm employing me as the mechanics of this, so you can see it as a reference and then employ it yourself, right? And have the courage to go into your unknown and your perception, that you might be the one that perceives more than anyone else, right? Be your own perception authority and reality authority and stuff, right? So yeah, this Sabrina Wallace clip that I'll include, it was a massive variable of putting all this together, right? Because it unlocked all the other stuff. So what I'm saying is, the clip I show a bit later did this for me, and it just, as I said, my perception mechanics have been going off the charts, and it just put all this into alignment. So I want to get into the videos and the clips because I've got quite a lot, right? And this video is going to be quite complex for me to keep in my mind, and I've got a bit of a script that I want to go to, but I'll do my best, and I've already talked a long time and stuff, and trying to not make it too long, but also make it a very rich journey of discovery for you, alright? Because then you're going to go, holy crap, at the end. Oh my god. Alright? So what I'll do is I'll get into videos, alright? So this video, I know it was a massive tangent for me to come up with this, alright? Because say if I'm thinking about things, I like having parallel problems all going, because this is what I was doing in IT when I was an IT consultant. I have like 7 or 8 problems going in parallel. So I might be working on 3 or 4 of them, and then all of a sudden I get a aha moment and I fix this one and come back to it, alright? And I guess in my subconscious or whatever goes on with my perception mechanics, it all came together because I felt like my ability to employ variables, because I got feeling so good and got on top of my body and all the hacks and code stealing and people harvesting my kundalini and all that sort of stuff. There were many parallel variables going on and lots of efforts to hack into my mind and steal my codes and stuff. So then all my stuff kicked in, alright, at a level that I just feel very mature in, and it's been there all along, but we just don't have reference of it, so we settle. And yeah, it was just very fascinating. I honestly haven't been money focused and all that sort of stuff, but it was just fascinating how obvious this was to me, and I don't have many doubts. We'll see how it goes in the future, but right now I feel confident with this, and perhaps I'm wrong, all right? Discern me all you like, all right? But having the courage to speak your truth when it comes, when there's no reference, it's brave. And so I'm being very brave here in a community that, yeah, we're talking money and a lot of greed and vested interests and all that sort of stuff, and people are very governed by what they know, what not by the what is, if that makes sense. So what I want to do, many of you probably haven't come across Bitcoin, or you know it but you don't know much about it and stuff, so I want to offer some segments of an awesome short documentary that was released, I don't know, it's a couple of years ago now, but I just went on a bit of a keyboard ninja fest to find something that will give you a lot of context, and I found this documentary that I'm going to share many clips at different points. All right. So the theme of this video, that I might make it money too, or pattern recognition, or something like that. I'm not sure. It might be a total original video or not in another theme, but it's more or less demystifying the Bitcoin mystery. Sotoshi Nakamoto ghost, and I use that word ghost for a very specific reason relative to another clip I'll show you a bit later on, and the context for it all. So I don't want to share the variable that puts that conscious Tetris into place. I want to leave it as a surprise a bit later on for you guys that I build the anticipation for, right? Because then when I say it, you're going to be like, holy crap. Right? And it would be like very activating for a lot of people, I feel. So what I want to do is just offer the intro video first now. It's a good one because I'm sure many of you in there that I've been around and stuff, you're not really into the money or the history of this sort of thing. This will be a very cool teaching in itself to help educate you on this variable in our reality called Bitcoin. All right? So I'll offer it now, and I'll see you on the other side, all right?
I had an idea that just wouldn't let me go until I programmed it. My name is Satoshi Nakamoto. You don't know me, not yet, but my invention will change your life. By linking all computers, our lives were digitalized, reduced to a set of data that need only be collected and analyzed. Every word, every gesture, every transaction. The internet was transformed from a window onto the world into a means of control. A new economy was emerging. We would be its raw material. This new world would upend everything: our communications, our rights, our privacy. In the era of self-styled promotion, privacy is a revolutionary act, regardless of whether there is something to hide or not. Privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something you don't want the world to know. A secret is something you don't want anybody to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. Freedom.
With the growth of the internet, it became necessary for everyone to have access to strong encryption. Cryptography is the art of scrambling information to make it unintelligible except to those that have the right key to unscramble it. So governments formed their opinion about cryptography as a consequence of how pivotal it was to the outcome of World War II. The government regarded it as a munition and restricted its export. The cypherpunks, a group of activists in the San Francisco Bay Area, were quite interested in promoting strong encryption.
For us cypherpunks, freedom is non-negotiable. It tops everything. Freedom is our struggle. Eric Hughes said it in his manifesto back in 1993. Privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. We cannot expect governments, corporations, or other large, faceless organizations to grant us privacy out of their beneficence. Cypherpunks write code. We know that someone has to write software to defend privacy. And since we can't get privacy unless we all do, we're going to write it.
They believe that true human expression is really only possible when you can protect your anonymity. And out of this movement came many attempts to recreate various fundamental institutions of society using the complex mathematics of cryptographic systems. So things like voting systems, digital communication systems that enabled very strong privacy.
The cypherpunks were a group of individuals who felt that cryptography could enable new human freedom, that freedom to communicate and the freedom to send money. And there were many different versions or ideas behind like digital cash.
I've got to send something for my mom's birthday. I'll then book plane tickets for our trip next week, and my kids got to go to the library to look up dinosaurs.
Hey, we can take care of all that before we go.
Yeah, right.
Oh, with America Online.
America Online can do all that?
If you can control people's money, you can control every aspect of their life. If you can surveil people's money, then you know everything you need to know about them.
How about sending your mom some nice flowers? All you do is click on Marketplace, we place an order. And it's so easy. All you do is point, click.
America Online, a new way to use your computer to communicate, have fun, and get instant news and information.
A giant virtual supermarket. That's what the internet promised us. But we saw something quite different.
People have distrusted the traditional financial system for some time. They'd been working on peer-to-peer currencies for decades because the internet made information accessible to everyone. But no suitable currency, no global universal currency exists without a central bank. That was a drawback.
Control trade, and you control freedom. As the internet became a huge platform for trade, it needed a currency, anonymous, counterfeit-proof, with no middleman. But there was an issue: double spending.
The double spending problem is this idea that digital information is easy to copy, and if you have a form of digital money, how can you keep track of that money and make sure it's only spent once? Now, with physical paper money, when you give it to someone, you no longer have it. But in the digital realm, you can give someone a copy of something digital, a perfect copy that is indistinguishable from the original, and still keep the original. Now there are two copies. What if you then give it to someone else again?
On the internet, everything can be duplicated infinitely. Solving the double spending problem would help prevent fraud on the net. Copy and paste could no longer be an option. Without it, online commerce would be impossible.
It was a complex technical problem. That's why it took decades to solve. Bitcoin is the result of decades of intensive research, an ideology of freedom, and a desire for secure payments.
These are the individuals who had built precursors to Bitcoin, but these precursors hadn't been successful. If you think of Bitcoin as a new species of money, these species died on the operating table. They never really made it out of the lab. And so the cypherpunks wanted to create a digital cash, but they had no idea how money worked. They knew how cryptography worked, but they had very poor understanding of economics, monetary policy, and money. Satoshi did.
Sometimes the solution appeared to be within my grasp. Other times it appeared entirely out of reach.
The stock market is now down 21%.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
This could be the most serious recession in decades.
What started in America last year has now spread to every part of the world.
The financial world collapsed. Its instruments, its rules, the creation of wealth, all one big fiction. A web of lies and opaque algorithms. The opposite of what I had been working on for years, an open, universal, well-ordered mathematical world. The Bitcoin code haunted me day and night.
Lehman Brothers had just collapsed. There had been massive bailouts. It was a huge, super stressful time period in the world.
And finally, the time had come. It worked. Cryptography had cracked double spending. Absolute transparency, guaranteed anonymity. Bitcoin was ready.
Satoshi first shared the Bitcoin white paper with the cryptographer mailing list, which was comprised of the cypherpunks. October 31st, 2008 is when he releases the white paper. And Satoshi waited for that exact moment because it sounded like he had completed Bitcoin a little bit before that and was waiting for the peak moment of despair in the financial markets to press the send button.
A technical scientific paper that described in just over 8 pages in beautiful detail, very concisely, very clearly, the primary technical ideas of Bitcoin.
The first people that heard about Bitcoin typically scoffed at it. They thought it was a joke or they didn't think it was going to work. A few months later, he released the code. In the Genesis block, he has a headline from the Times, UK Chancellor on the verge of second bailout for banks. So he's very much, this is a very aggressive stance, anti-banking, anti-central banking, anti-government. In his writings, he goes, the core root of the problem with money is it requires trust to make it all work. We must trust the banks. We must trust the merchant processors. We must trust the central banks. And he goes, with Bitcoin, we remove that needed element of trust. Bitcoin's network wasn't in a state of too much testing for that long of a time. It was in a state of like very active development and in production. Cypherpunks write code. That isn't just enough to talk about it, you have to go implement it. And Satoshi very much fit that, where he goes, okay, I'm gonna go make this happen. I'm gonna go release this to the world.
I like the idea of writing software and releasing it, and the software changes the facts on the ground. It's politically easier to bring about these changes if the software is already deployed. It makes it harder to make the software illegal if it's available everywhere.
The program was launched. I had won a victory against the banks, against state power. I had to be careful in the early days. I had a few allies, but it was a minefield. A handful of disciples does not make an army. Bitcoin was easy prey.
Bitcoin certainly wasn't 100% perfect right off the bat. There were a few bugs, few flaws. From a network perspective, it very easily could have been crushed by, a really motivated attacker. But luckily that didn't happen. I think most people dismissed Bitcoin, and governments included, dismissed Bitcoin as silly money for a long time, and most governments still do.
Welcome back. I hope you liked it. Pretty interesting, isn't it? It's well done video as well. I can't remember right now where I found it. Alright. So fascinating, isn't it? It's all this mystery and stuff and encryption, like I said, and all that sort of thing. Okay. And I wanted you also to appreciate how the narrative and the reality we are versus how everything works. And if you're into all the themes, especially the Amplify the Echoes series, that from my perspective everything is a creation that we're sort of in, and the planet's been occupied for a very long time and we're sort of incarnating in, and I've done that incarnation war theme also, that we're trying to bust open everything that's going on and stuff, but they're all bigger scales of the context of this video, and I'm trying to be very higher up in the narrative versus the sub-narrative levels. If you remember that narrative image and the sub-narrative teaching I did 18 months ago. So then there's this creator, Sotoshi Nakamoto, alright? If I get the name wrong, it's interesting, but I'm doing my best here because I'm focusing on the variables and all the plates spinning relative to this video. So there's a mystery of the creation of it, and then there's this ghost who no one knows is who creates it and stuff, and it the perception is it's a Japanese person, because Japanese are very good with mathematics and stuff, so from a logical perspective it makes sense. From what they present, and the individual that it is very idealistic and principle orientated, which is good and stuff. And you know, those of you in the community, if you've explored many teachings, and there's issues relative to the money system and stuff, it's the central banks and all those sort of things. So encryption, security, privacy and all those sort of things are all an ingredient for this creation, okay? And so there's this being who's the architect of it, right? So what I'm going to move on quick, I'll just offer you another clip relative to this being, Sotoshi Nakamoto, and I'll see you on the other side.
A currency is based on the trust of its users. But what is the trust based on? We trust current government currencies because they're issued by the state, because we pay our taxes with them. The state guarantees a monopoly for the currency within its borders. Digital currencies are something completely new. They force us to question the very nature of money.
Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, has been put on Interpol's most wanted list.
Tonight in Britain, Julian Assange is awaiting arrest by British police. But the WikiLeaks founder remains defiant, suggesting the US is out to kill him. Tonight, Assange isn't relenting, suggesting that if anything happens to him, all the remaining secret cables will be released to the world at once.
Governments quickly conquered the digital world, invading by force and with warlike interests. WikiLeaks soon learned that revealing the secrets of the powerful can lead to punishment. I learned from the fate of Assange that there are red lines that are better not crossed. Drastic security measures became necessary.
Different governments around the world pressured PayPal and Visa and other payment providers to censor their transactions because WikiLeaks was deemed dangerous for leaking information. So WikiLeaks turned to Bitcoin, which is permissionless, as a way to accept donations. And I think that was another really cool testament to Bitcoin's resiliency and use case of permissionless money. No one can take that money away from you, and no one can stop it from being sent to you.
It would have been nice to get this attention in any other context. WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest, and the swarm is headed towards us. We were right in the spotlight's glare much too early.
You know, Satoshi had created this new money, and he was very much worried that they were kicking the hornet's nest, is how he put it, at too early of a stage in the project, and that they may not survive a government attack. He also, I think, close to that time, started to question if he should be part of the project, and so Satoshi eventually disappeared.
Bitcoin had become the currency for those who wanted to remain unknown at all costs.
You can get anything on the internet nowadays. Cars, homes, and now black tar heroin. This is Silk Road, the anonymous marketplace. On the main page, they proudly and openly sell LSD, marijuana, and ecstasy.
Bitcoin is this thing that has no political bias. So it's this truly free, permissionless network for storing and moving value.
Un anonymat garanti et un business très rentable, un supermarché de la drogue, où les internautes payaient grâce à une monnaie virtuelle.
C'est pas anonyme, c'est pseudonyme.
It is not anonymous, but rather pseudonymous. The Bitcoin register, the blockchain, is transparent and open for all to see. If there is a court order because of possible criminal activity, the state can search the platform, just like a bank. They're allowed to uncover your identity and your finances.
The virtual world is not an encapsulated parallel world. It is actually closely connected to our world. every digital action can touch real life.
Donc là, on voit que ça a l'air d'être un stéréo player à $70.
Mais à l'intérieur, du papier bulle et bien caché, un revolver 38 spécial, l'arme achetée sur le site.
You know, it was a huge revelation to me that it could survive something even for an illegal use case, which meant that its protocol must be really, really robust and sound. This is before I completely understood how it all worked.
I did not create Bitcoin to protect criminals. I wanted free and autonomous transactions. And then Silk Road drove up the value of one Bitcoin to $30. That's when I decided to back away from the project. No more public posts. Only a few private emails to Bitcoin developers. I will only guide and advise, that's all.
Why did Satoshi disappear? I remember he disappeared after Gavin Anderson came back and said, hey, I just had a meeting with the CIA. They wanted to talk to me about what Bitcoin is.
I got an email in April 2011 from Gavin Andreessen, one of my programmers. He had accepted an invitation from the CIA to talk about Bitcoin.
Satoshi never wrote an email ever again. That was it.
Gavin knew nothing about me, not a thing. But I made a radical cut anyway. I didn't want to take any chances. I knew they would do anything to find me. But I knew they wouldn't succeed. The program didn't need me anymore. It was stable enough to grow and fulfill its function for whatever purpose.
I was a little bit surprised that it happened so soon. I would have thought that he takes a bit more leadership in the project.
I think Satoshi understood, and this is why he stayed pseudonymous. He knew that if there was a human behind the project, that would always be a weakness.
No one is responsible. That makes Bitcoin less vulnerable to attack. There is no one to prosecute, attack, arrest, or convict for founding Bitcoin, or for having power over Bitcoin. No one has power over Bitcoin, not even the founder. We just know Satoshi's writings.
We know that he's an English speaker. He uses some UK spellings for words, but he only does it twice. We know what times he posted on the Bitcoin Talk forum, what time zone he may live in.
Whenever someone is thought to be Satoshi, they say, no, Satoshi can't be like that. But we don't actually know. If Satoshi is a genius, he's bound to be a little strange and not average. He can change.
That's the extent of our knowledge.
I'm not in Bitcoin.
But your address
in Bitcoin, I don't know anything about it.
64-year-old Dorian Sotoshi Nakamoto emerged from his Southern California home Thursday and walked right into a media frenzy, hours after Newsweek magazine claimed he was the mystery man behind Bitcoin.
Yes, I was around in those times, but I was very annoyed with the Newsweek research. What Newsweek did is they found a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, and they're like, we found him. Satoshi wouldn't have chosen his real name. And so they were literally looking for a John Doe, found John Doe, and said that was Satoshi. It's very poor journalism because they went to his home, they kind of harassed this guy, and so he was put under the spotlight, and he was just a very quiet dude. He didn't really want to be found. So it was a very uncomfortable position for him and very unethical on Newsweek's part.
The main reason I'm here is to clear my name that I have nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with developing. I was just an engineer doing something else.
So welcome back. I hope you're getting a lot from it. It's very interesting, isn't it? So right now, talking about this and this creation called Bitcoin, and that went from not much to having this impact it has over since 2008 and 9, right? So what I might do is just show you a very simple image relative to the timelines of things, all right? So it's just a very simple one about the timeline. So from 2000 to 2020 to now. And so like 2007 and 8, there was this financial crisis going on, if you can see the red line. And then the green line is when Bitcoin was created, and it's been going on ever since. So as the first clip said, it was created by this ghost out there called Sotoshi Nakamoto, right? And it just came at a very potent time of uncertainty and stuff, so there could have been a lot of inertia and interest in going outside of the money system, because the perception was it was all failing and all this sort of stuff, and there's corruption and subterfuge and all sorts of misguided stuff going on, and greed and control and all this sort of stuff, right? So we'll just offer this because I've got another variable of this, all right? So as I get a cheeky grin and the Don Bratto rises. So earlier on I offered that this being called Sabrina Wallace, alright? It sort of entered my reality early October, thanks to an ally. Give me the heads up to pay attention here, sunshine. And her data has added an enormous relevance to me in my history, particularly being in the IT industry and stuff, and exploring the healing path and appreciating, like, my healing isn't about adding anything to you, it's about clearing all the crap out, energy hygiene, and especially the spleen and those sort of components and stuff, and the battle I've had to maintain myself and what seems to be coming through with clients and stuff, which is vastly different now, because these IANI perpetrators that I've sort of been dealing with have been hacking and hijacking codes and all this sort of stuff, when the metaphor has been, my journey have been like a hen in a fox house, alright? Thinking all these people are allies when they're not, alright? They're all perpetrators of that stuff in the past, but that's a separate discussion, which I might be offering more context in the future, alright? But what I'm offering is, I'll show you the conscious Tetris image again. This is a bit where we are, sort of, if you are appreciating what we're up to with the Bitcoin and this mystery person. Like, we've got a lot of red blocks that don't have answers and stuff, right? But what I'm going to help you do is see this reality at a whole new level, right? And see that there's been a lot going on that we haven't known about, that we've only just gotten context for, and it's going to be brave to accept my perceptions on this, but it'll be up to you, right? To me, it's just how much more of this stuff has been going on. It's not a matter of if it's been going on, it's been going on for a very long time, right? So I'm going to let you appreciate the surprise of this video if I get this Sabrina clip in, because it is a bit, do I want to do it? Alright? But I trust Earth and the algorithms of taking over the internet and stuff like that, and she's in control of all the electricity and stuff like that, so I'm going into my unknown and having some courage to offer this. So just pay attention to the dates, alright? Okay? So I'll leave it there and I'll be with you on the other side. And also, just remember who I've been involved in and what creations I've been a part of, particularly, say, 5 years ago now, alright? So I'll leave you with this clip of the awesome Sabrina Wallace. She's a bit out there. She might seem crazy and stuff. She's been through a hell of a journey. And so I appreciate her for holding the line and being who she is and authentic now to be able to share these things with us, alright? So enjoy. She's got mega dilligaf, like does not give a frack, alright? So have fun. I'll see you on the other side.
TV. If you're seeing this, this is just made for FluffTube only. This is just for YouTube. We're going to go to ninoscorner.tv and talk more about this. It is way too hot for YouTube. I don't feel comfortable putting it on there, neither does Ryan. I'm introducing my audience to Ryan Velli, who is a technology teacher, was an independent contractor for the U.S. military, and has some dire news about, I guess, what we would call the digital ID, Skynet, Mark of the Beast. You worked hand in hand with these technologies, correct?
I did, and thank you, El Nino, for bringing me on, and I appreciate you giving me the venue to share some very critical information with the general audience, and specifically your demographic is very important for people to become aware of what's actually happening on the digital side and this control grid that's being constructed around us, for sure.
So would you say that, the one sincere threat I see is our military is very divided and I feel compromised. Would you say I'm right on the mark on that? Because people say, oh, wait for the intervention, wait for the military to make a move. What are your thoughts on that?
So my experience in the military, most people I worked with at my level were very great people, good intentions, but they are subject to the chain of command and also greed and coercion. So this is why the entire structure is tainted. And all of these people that are white hats, good guys working on the positive side, I would ask them to please vet their chain of command and to verify that the information and orders that are coming through are indeed through white hat channels and don't actually ultimately reside in artificial intelligence or any kind of high-level manipulation of the power structure on our side, on the good side, on the people's side.
And you have told me earlier that AI is very capable of winning any war right now, correct? Since 2005?
So my experience is that I was told in 2007, I used to participate in what are called warfighter exercises, where intelligence and the command structure gets together behind a singular console to fight wars, simulated wars. And at that time, you required human beings, and as of 2005, they were capable of using artificial intelligence to entirely fight and win wars. That means AI controlling the kill chain, sending orders out. The people on the ground don't know where the orders are coming from, and it's artificial intelligence.
Wow. And I'm going to...
So can you take it from him? He's saying word for word what I'm showing you right now. Now he's going to mention the Jets. Oh, Joint All-Domain Command and Control? Hey, let's listen some more. It's coming from Nino. And boy, does he look unhappy to have this guy up here. According to this was posted on September 20th. So, yesterday.
To go deeper into this with you on ninoscorner.tv, but you're saying that Skynet is very real. When I think of Skynet, I think of like Terminator. I don't know why that pops in my head, but like, Skynet.
This is your Sarah Connor wake-up moment, same as your audience. Jade C2 is Joint All-Domain Command and Control, and it is putting all of the command and control of the U.S. military under one console, one window, one point of control. So that is tremendously real and is happening now. And one of the ways that we even have white hats is that our military is siloed out. So one general can have command of nuclear weapons or whatever area, and if the structure, the hierarchy is corrupted at the top, we have a defense in that we have silos that segment out and defend our offensive capabilities so that they're not used against us. Well, when you get rid of that, which is what JADO actually, now you have joint all domains, and it's basically the centralization and the elimination of silos. These are multi-billion-dollar projects that are openly being done. And my experience is that it's already done. They're just releasing this information to show you that it's done and to condition everybody to come in the military branches under that umbrella. And when
now, he's talking about the JATS 2 ABMS. I wrote it down wrong. It's JADC, but it sounded like JATS, JATZ when I heard it. The JATS-2 ABMS with the United States Air Force, we want a digital nervous system, end to end. We need to redo things at the DoD. That's the silo thing he's talking about. I've been watching it on Command and Control all year long. Get rid of the silos. They had a webinar about it for a couple months in the summer. So digital nervous system at end to end, we need to redo at the DoD how we connect with these platforms, get the humans out of the process and into the reasoning to enable the commander directly. Data science, Project Salus. It's a process, not an event. Anyways, so your biofield is 80% of your immune system. Now, most people have no idea because when I ask you what organs comprise the immune system, then we have the thymus, the bone marrow, the lymphatic, your vessels, your spleen, and your skin. There's your biofield. And the electrical, lymphatic, and vasculature, your adrenal system, 40 to 60% of your enzymatic response with your hormone control. It's all here in the electrical homeostasis of that body part. And they have it with Project Salus, which has been around since 1954, watching every phase and phase state of every cell in your body down to the bone marrow. And everybody went, that's impossible. And I said, go listen to Dr. Brian Artis. He's going to tell you that's Project Salus, watching Humetrix iPads with an intensivist, and the AI makes the decision for precision AI healthcare. Then you're going to see it again and again, ever since COVID deployed. AI precision healthcare, electroceuticals, therapeutics, nanoavionics, telemedicine, telehealth. We're going to fly a drone over your home. Wireless healthcare. It's here. Biomedical wireless tissue engineering. I said, how did we suddenly get here? We can even do remote surgery. Dr. Anna showed it with Professor Ian's metamaterial stuff and the 6G body area network materials, some of which tech docs I've read here on the channel. How did they do it? Because back in the 60s, they have radio frequency bands like Malfoy has for his business that are medical, industrial, and scientific. The 2.4 terahertz low power for the biosensors, terahertz bullets, all sorts of things to make a physical change, biological to digital, digital to biological, is right here in that low power. It's called 6G low pan for the 2.4 terahertz low power, working with the metamaterials from Professor Ian. Now this right here, the medical implant communication system, this is from the 50s and 60s with RFID in humans. Oh, we need a chip. They already chipped people like dogs for 2 decades. By the 80s, they didn't need a chip anymore. They had the wireless and EEG overlay from all the testing with HemiSync and Gateway. Wireless tissue engineering and wirelessly reading your DNA.
Welcome back. Thanks for being here still and getting through to this point. Very interesting, hey? So I'm going to show you the context image, alright? So if you listen to the dates, 2005, isn't that interesting? And it's not only that, it's the military implementation of things, okay? So how is your context with that? Do you see what I'm sort of getting to? Alright. So I'm going to show you a timeline image now that I said as I expanded a bit more. Alright. So I showed that other one before. It didn't have this purple line. I'm not sure if you can see it's purple, but I thought I'd do it purple. So I had 2000 to 2020 up until now. There was a 2007-8 financial crisis, which I was in Sydney working in IT, and then I got into currency trading after. And then Bitcoin started in 2009, if you looked at the earlier images, and it was a very potent time for it to begin, and it's been going on ever since. But then the context of what was said in that short clip was that AI went live in 2005 from the military perspective, right? So like I said, do you imagine how random it was that I found that whole 20 or 30 minutes with Sabrina, with that particular clip offered, which was an audio from a private sort of recording of someone, and I, not intending to violate that person, but it's important that you guys hear it, all right, with someone in the community and all that sort of stuff, right? So the date was 2005, all right? Fascinating, isn't it? What does that do for you? All right? So, those of you that have been around me for a lot of years, all right? One of the things I did with Andrew back in 2018, you know, a couple-hour conversation for him, but it was 100 to 200 hours of work for me to create all the images and videos and stuff. Did an 8-part series on AI in this world, all right? And going back to then, we talked about commercial AI as relative to Amazon and all that, employing it since 2004, all right? But we never talked about military or anything like that. We never had any context for what is going on in the world. It was just talking about like businesses and election fraud and all that stuff, and it went back to the 80s. And I know in that Sabrina clip that talked about 2005, but I would say it's going back 30, 40, even 50 years earlier. Because I remember talking, there's an awesome teacher out there named David Irvine that's a fearless truth warrior that's gone through hell with what he's talked about, and I won't get into it, but if you remember back when I was talking about the Philadelphia experiment, it might be in the Amir video as well, that I sort of worked out the Philadelphia experiment sort of stuff relative to 1943, 1983 and 2023, August 12th, alright? And Fledgley Park was like the code breakers sort of thing of the breaking the Nazis sort of thing, but I felt like they went back in time to offer the data from 1943, and that was the moment when the Nazis never won sort of thing. Alright, so if you go back over history, there was a point where they never lost and then they never won, and I felt like they used the code breaking sort of stuff as a layer of the narrative when underneath they were doing that. Alright, so that was what the Philadelphia experiment was. It was 40 years before and after sort of thing. So and our world is what it is since, right? But yeah, what I was feeling was he talked about that being sort of potentially AI going back all that far. So I'm just offering the dates of these, what they're saying to the context of Bitcoin, but I feel it's vast than what we know. And this is the going into the unknown that I sort of said, right? To me, nothing in this reality is offered unless there's a decryption of the encryption. So like I said about Windows NT 95, you couldn't export it to, say, countries like Iran or something, because they had export embargoes that prevented sort of the technology getting to those guys, that they couldn't decrypt the encryption. But then in Windows 2000 there wasn't any issues sort of thing. And I might have those dates wrong and stuff, it was 20 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's those versions, because to me it was like they worked out how to decrypt everything. So there's this whole people in the narrative, like when I was trading and stuff, Cliff High was big. So I was big into Cliff High back in 2010, 11, 12 and stuff. And Cliff says is there's no way there's AI out there, because I couldn't code it. So from a linguistics perspective, I love him and stuff, but thinking he's the absolute possibility and all that can be coded, I would offer to you, mate, if you listen to this, that it's from my perspective. There can't be anything more out there, because I'm governed by what I know. And he's had extensive experience and stuff, but it's interesting. I had a conversation with Richard Allen Miller in 2014 and stuff, and he's a bit of a brat. And he tells me that Duncan from Nexus, he's got a handler, and Richard has a handler as well. So a lot of these people out in the community that get a lot of following and talk about these things, they might offer their variables of information. They might offer all these components, and then they offer outliers like variables that don't add up. But this is the thing about ANDA and stuff, and these people that I've been involved in. Is I was giving my perception authority away to them because who was I to challenge them and stuff like that. And we had no reference of what was true or what wasn't. It was, we were going into our unknown and having to trust people who we felt were our allies and on our side, but they would offer the conscious Tetris perception mechanics was you'd be discerning for, say, the first 20 variables, so you'd have the discernment level very high. Then you build trust and you'd dip your discernment variables because of the context of the past. You'd trust it. The next 40 or 50, 60 variables you might trust, and then you get to 80 or 90 and they slip in 5 or 10 or 20 variables that because you've discerned them, you lowered your discernment because you trust, and then they slip in the Mickeys, like the falsehoods, to lead you off it, like lead you in that contextual image. If I show you it again, they slip in the falsehoods that lead you astray, so you don't perceive what's going on, so you have no context of everything. But then when you get the truth, it's like you see all their bullshit, right? And so you know it's false and you can see the truth, right? And this video in itself is a teaching on what the reality offers us and what actually is going on, right? And being brave of going into that unknown that might not have much reference right now, but it is the truth. And with that, how do you go with the foundation of truth versus falsehood? You find it easier to navigate. So this is a training in perception, like our intuitive potential muscles as well for you guys, right? And I could be wrong, right? It might all be revealed to be a total load of BS, right? And maybe it becomes that after this because I have to do it because I've gotten it, right? I don't want this known because then you'll see all the other stuff, right? But I'll just offer all this with all the teachers and stuff. Maybe you're the perception authority that we've been waiting for that sees it, right? And you don't need to refer to all these data points that are incorrect to navigate. You can trust your own intuitive potential, all right? But yeah, so say in my personal journey, I interacted with Andrew. We did that whole series and there was nothing about this, alright? So, nothing about sort of the implementation of the go live of what that guy said. And then, say last year, and as I said before, operating with this being that I've dealt with in the last 18 months, Carlene, August 2022, I did 4 to infinity and beyonds in a row, like recordings that I split up and made separate recordings and stuff. And in that, her perspective was that all AIs are from the Phantom Matrix. There's nothing in this world that is originating from our world, and all the Black Goo, Miles Johnson stuff from 2012 is what is going on in the genocide juice of people, and nothing to do with what I offered in Amplify the Echoes 12, right? So again, what I'm saying is set up for failure sort of stuff, not true, that we give our perception authority away sort of thing, right? So there's another variable here before I just get into this, and this is all the military sort of stuff, and from my perspective, it's nothing to fear and all that sort of stuff. If this stuff has been going on for all that long, right, then there's a logical reason for it. But then there could be a misguided aspect, which I've spoken for quite a while in this, so I don't really want to get into those mechanics too much, but I would just invite you, there's nothing to fear. If this stuff has been going on, it's been going on, and the world is how it is, and potentially there's an effort to make it stabilized, alright? You also have to understand the nature of humanity and people, right? And a lot of what's going on is on part a byproduct of the nature of people, because greed to me is a fear-based emotion, and one of the variables that I appreciate with money is the relationship to our life force, right? And so it's like a fabric of the reality. It's all in us, right? As much as you want to deny it and stuff, value is huge. So if you gain something for free versus you've actually had to work for it, there's a different variable related to what the outcome is and stuff. And so the inherent nature of people is wanting more, thinking they have a right to have everything and stuff like that. So there's also this section of society think they're the authority to be the guiding aspect of humanity and stuff. So all I'm just offering here is that you have to appreciate the nature of humanity and how easy it is for us to navigate, and when there's greed and money involved, then people will justify it. And I'll show you the perception mechanic image again. So if people are in greed, they tend to have blinkers, alright? They don't want to see all the variables that are involved, because at the end of the day, if they've got comfort, alright, by acquiring wealth and stuff, then they'll justify their actions based on that, right? So Gandhi had this awesome quote that I love: there's enough in this world for everyone's needs, there's never enough for anyone's greed, alright? And we have to accept how society is, because, and I might show you the Ram Dass clip now, alright? So enjoy.
You spoke a little earlier about making political decisions and judgments in terms of how it fits, I think, with one's heart.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that in...
Not heart, emotional heart. You know, heart like Chinese sin, or the Atma, meaning the deepest place of truth.
The core.
The deepest intuitive place in one's being, yeah.
That notion would seem to contradict what we see very much in the world about us now, which are religious political movements, you know, the moral majority or the Islamic fundamentalism, where in the name of a particular religious dogma, certain political planks are established, and everyone within that organization or within that tradition is expected to support a particular political attitude.
When there is a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. When there's a lot of uncertainty, there is usually a lot of fear attendant to it. And how people react to fear is interesting. Some people just consume more. They say, I'll get it while I can because it's all going to blow up anyway. They become more and more materialistic. Some people want to be on the right side when the doors close, so they become fundamentalists in one sense or another. They grab on to right as opposed to evil. They want to be one of the 144,000 that gets in the door. And the other group uses it, the uncertainty, as a way to deal with their inner relationship to uncertainty, and they go inward. And you can see the society dealing with the fear that way. And so that real thrust to the kind of righteousness is staying at the plane of good and evil. It's staying at the plane of polarities. And it's not seeing, as G. Manly Hall said, that he who knows not that the Prince of Darkness is but the other face of the King of Light knows not me.
So I've shown that many times, right? But it's interesting, isn't it? When we look at all these three variables, there's fear, there's wanting to acquire, so people justify cheating over other people and amassing wealth and in privacy and all that. But then there's awareness and not being hooked into it. So I know in me, like I talk about my trading, but I went bankrupt and I lost everything. And I went through wealth and I went through all the greed and then went through poverty and appreciation and stuff, and I felt and experienced all those angles because I was never brought up to be greedy in that. Alright, but being immersed in the energy of money and trading, it's very overwhelming to the level that you don't even know you're in it. Alright, it's a bit like heightened sexuality, you know. Everyone thinks that everyone else is driven by that, but they're in their own blinkers and other people aren't. Alright, so you can be very polarized by your sexuality, just like money, because it's all based on fear and the base sort of stuff, survival instincts and all that, which corrupt your perception mechanics. Alright, So I just offering it, teaching on many levels and stuff. And this is the genius of the AI that I was getting to, all right? Where you imagine if you're creating a program, all right, that is designed to create a evolution of our society, because say the money system is corrupt or it has a potential risk of failure. I see it as a military sort of output, because there's a huge potential for societal destabilization and falling apart, so that the military would see it as a threat to stability, and thus it might create this and seed it into reality to bloom the way it did and not be crushed, right? If it was in opposition, to let it plant the seed so it can grow and employ all these variables at the time, like greed, uncertainty, and fear. People looking for an alternate. There's also people in the community that are against the system, and they think they're being idealists going against the system when it's actually a controlled opposition of it, right? Just because in our reality we don't perceive that there's any way to decrypt all the encryption, I would suggest there is out there, and it's all being read and it's all known. Again, it's nothing to fear. But creating that vacuum in society for that outlet of people is also the genius of the AI in my perspective, right? Because people are going to be polarized against the system and always want to be a rebel against it. So you're not going to fence it in, you're actually going to create an apparatus that is actually polarized against the system. So when the banking system says it's negative, it's like, oh, the banking system don't like it, so I'm going to go to it, right? It's just the logic and the genius and the next level thinking that we need to have to actually appreciate all that's going on, all right? This is what I'm inviting here, okay? So I'm just going to move on. So I'm going to offer some other clips here. And this gets into Sotoshi Nakamoto. If I get his name wrong, it's not intentional. I've got a lot of variables I'm processing in this, right? I'm keeping them all together. So what I'm going to do is offer two clips here, because say if I've offered that Bitcoin is a product of AI, and we had no context that it was set up in 2005 going live in the reality, and then it seeded that a few years later and it's blossomed ever since, just managed to not get crushed. It's still here, all right? What a lucky thing it is, all right, in this very controlled reality, all right? But then it gets to this being of who is this being, and that's why I've deliberately used the word ghost. Sotoshi Nakamoto ghost, all right? So I'm going to include a couple clips here. I'm not sure which order, but going back in what I said about the variable with Sabrina Wallace and that date, then it was conscious Tetris to offer other variables, and then the awesome TV show Person of Interest came in, right? And I specifically remember this episode because it was a very obscure sort of clip, all right? But yeah, it was a very obscure sort of character that came up, but it was like, holy crap, that's what's going on, because as soon as I got all my solar flare perception mechanics off the chart sort of stuff, that's when this variable kicked in that has always been in the background in my cache, right? So what I'm going to do is offer another clip from that documentary about Satoshi, but then I'm going to offer the person of interest clip, so I'll see you on the other side, all right?
He's one of the richest people in the world, and he's anonymous.
I was rich in Bitcoin, my own currency, but I couldn't touch it because then the trust I had so painstakingly built up would be destroyed.
It's a big mystery. The first million Bitcoin ever created have never been moved.
Which is insane. For someone to build this massively valuable thing and not touch the money is a modern-day Prometheus, a modern-day saint, if you will.
It's unbelievable, like something out of a novel or a movie.
This million weighed heavily on me. I could have used it to control the value of Bitcoin and helped stabilize it by carefully buying and selling. I could have reclaimed my influence.
I don't think Satoshi's just going to move his Bitcoin and say YOLO. I'm just going to move it and see what happens. What he can do is he can sign with his private key, he can sign a message letting everyone know that he is and what he will be doing with it. It is the only way that if you are Satoshi to verify that you are Satoshi.
This Bitcoin million was the only way to prove I was Satoshi. If I used the money, I would reveal myself. Was now the time?
We got one? The machine is being buried under an avalanche of false data, but somehow it was able to get us his number.
So who is he?
Ernest Thornhill, CEO of a data entry company, recently bought several payphone companies in New York State. His net worth is just over $20 million.
Any suspects or angry family members?
Mr. Thornhill is a very careful man. It's been a challenge hacking into his company's database. He's using unique 10-digit codes with non-repeating alphanumeric characters as passwords. I can break them, but it'd take time. Why don't we just pay Mr. Thornhill a visit in person?
Let's go to work.
5.5 months ago, he opened this account with a single penny. 24 hours and thousands of microtransactions later, his balance had ballooned to just over $20 million. And he immediately began trying to buy up payphone companies all over the city. I was finally able to get out his credit card records. Nothing there out of the ordinary, but I did find this. A pending charge for a car service. It appears that Thornhill's secretary wasn't lying to us after all. She booked a car to pick him up at JFK and return him to their offices today. Should be there within the hour.
I'll be happy to do a meet and greet.
You guys have made one hell of a mess.
How's the driver?
Stable. Witnesses saw a good Samaritan pull him out of the car. I'm gonna guess that was you.
Any sign of Thornhill?
That's where it gets strange. None of his employees have ever met him. Even his secretary was hired online. I think we're looking at someone with a Howard Hughes level of paranoia, or maybe he's taking classes from Finch.
I would never book a car service under my own name.
Thanks, Carter. Finch? I think I know who Thornhill is. He's a ghost. He doesn't exist.
I think you may be right, Mr. Reese.
I've seen it dozens of times before. A knock sets up a business, residence, whole life. Then the operation gets scrapped. No one cleans up the fake ID, and you wind up chasing empty town cars around the city.
Interesting theory. I have a different one. I was curious why I could only find one photo of Mr. Thornhill, so I did some investigating inside the photo that we already have. And I uncovered some peculiar information within the file. Look at this. It's a composite.
So Thornhill's definitely a fake.
Of a sort. I accessed Mr. Thornhill's cell phone records, and according to the GPS data, he was near Columbus Circle 2 days ago. He sent an email from that exact location at 4:32 p.m.
And no one's there?
Someone spoofed the data.
An algorithm. Complicated one.
It's one of mine. I used it in the one place where it could never be duplicated. In the machine. Ernest Thornhill is not a spy, but you're right about the fact that he doesn't exist. He's the product of a survival instinct.
Ernest Thornhill is the machine.
Welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed this so far. Has your mind been blown yet? How many times, right? Yeah. Imagine how I was over the weekend processing all this, feeling good. And I was like, holy crap, it's so obvious, right? But it's only obvious if you're willing to accept and go into the unknown, as I said. The what is, not what you are comfortable with. The what is, right? So this video is obviously quite long already. I'm not sure how long, because I offered a lot of context and training at the start. But what I'm inviting you to do is to see the reality in a different way than what you probably previously allowed yourself to see. You might feel uncertainty, fear of, you know, something operating that's beyond our control that might have influence and stuff. And what I would just invite you to do is say, if this is the truth and you're willing to you're welcome to discern me in it, alright, as to if it is actually the case. And I wouldn't be here unless I was pretty comfortable. And if this dude gets revealed as like, yep, it was me, blah blah blah, then so be it, I'm wrong, alright? But what I'm doing here is inviting you to think a much faster way of what might be going on that we haven't even had context for and seeing yet, that has been occurring for 10 to 15 years now in parallel to the world we're in. So I would offer that, say, me and my pursuit, and many of you here have been seeking answers to what's going on to find a way to navigate, like I said about the context, alright? And how do you feel you've been in your journey? Do you feel like you've had the truth? Do you feel like you've been offered the context to help navigate your journey? Or do you feel like you've been set up for failure by variables that, like I've said in the community, that aren't here to be our ally, but they're actually meant to confuse us and leave us in a state of wonder or what is, so we don't know the reference of the truth, so we can navigate and perceive all that we have the potential in us to be, like I've done 2 prior releases about our intuitive potential. And I've been offering those sort of components of how I've worked out the mechanics of perception and expansion to be able to perceive these sort of things and be comfortable in myself of being able to go into my unknown and trusting myself, and even offering it in public to be criticized and gone against and stuff like that. But I just want to offer you, how easy would it be to create something and not be known like that? All the variables are accurate. Maybe this being is an incredibly integral being that isn't governed by money and stuff, and sees the valid of trying to contribute to make the world a better place for us as beings in it, alright? And I absolutely appreciate that. As they say, the qualities are very rare, so it's not beyond most, but you have to be very idealistic and principle orientated and disciplined and humble. And yeah, the person of interest show, not only that, I think it's Jonathan Nolan, right? I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head now. He created Person of Interest and then he went and did Westworld. Who is this dude? Like, all the AI stuff, because Person of Interest was profound. There's a positive AI created by Harold Finch. And John Reese, they were going to save irrelevant numbers of the AI machine based on doing the right thing by people and detecting terrorism threats, going up against a totally free will, not encumbered or not hindered AI system called Samaritan that was just, they were at war, okay? And so that episode that came from was the end of the second season, which was pretty early on, but there was an effort of the war to take out the main machine or hijack it. And then later on, this corporation called Decima went after a parallel AI to implement it, to let it loose, to be able to take control and go after everything and take over the world. And it's a very profound show. And it's just fascinating that, you know, I obviously I love that show, and it was very much an ally, and I appreciated all the variables in it. So that's how that passion of that enjoyment of that show allowed me to remember that variable of this guy. I forget his name. I can't remember his name, damn. But yeah, just to be able to offer that episode towards the end of the second season like that with this created guy, the ghost, alright? Fascinating, isn't it? And that's how you can all employ your pattern recognition of all the data that might be in your body if you master your body. Like I've done vitamin K interviews and stuff like that relative to the bones, and I've talked about memory access in my multi-dimensional method to the 3D Madness series about pretty early on, alright, like a couple of years ago now, of how to access all this data and stuff. So say if you're measuring me and all this being Andre Hodge right now, it's like a metaphor of me getting my game going for all these components to work, right? The way it's operating in me now to be able to perceive all this and be very comfortable about offering it, okay? So I just offer this to many of you that have been on a longer period journey like I have for many years. I think it's the fact when I offer this sort of stuff, it's also, in my opinion, it's a failure of everyone else to offer it. But then again, it's a lot of people claim to see all that they can see but can't offer us the truth, alright? So are they authentic? Are they seeing it? Are they a charlatan? Or do they have an agenda to not give us the context so we can navigate? Let alone people in the non-spiritual community and stuff, which can be governed by greed and all those sort of variables and vested interests and have agendas aligned with the variables at play in this, that do not want you to know what's going on, especially with what's gone on in the last few years, right? So this is quite long. It's very big. It's a brave release for myself, but also a very elegant one. I feel that it's one that I hope that it'll expand your ability to appreciate what's going on and take your pattern recognition to a whole new level. That the world is vaster, more complicated than what we appreciate, but it doesn't have to be feared. It's an effort for you, help you understand what is going on in me as well, right? I'm not sure what's going to unpack after this for me, how I'm going to see it, because it's a expression of AI, from my perspective, being working in our society for a lot longer than anyone has been able to perceive or want to offer. When AI has been a theme that's come into our forefront maybe 10, 20 years later than when it's actually been rolled out. My guess it's a lot longer than that, back in the 70s and stuff, right? So I hope you get a lot from this. I hope you see the world the way it is and find an easier path for yourself in it. There's nothing to fear. As I said in the last video, our intuitive potential, what fear does to our perception mechanics, it corrupts it. Right? So I hope you go through your emotional mastery, you discern all this, you contemplate it. Maybe even just the education of Bitcoin is an ally to you, alright? Because I can tell you back in 2011 and stuff, it was very foreign and it was raw. And you might say, why? I was in a lot of financial trouble and life was very difficult for me. I didn't have the free money to put in. And then it was always like it broke out, like it went from like $3 to 10 or 15 or 20. I was like, nah, I've missed the boat. But I felt like I never really had a chance, and I had all these variables that just had no context of in the community and all this sort of stuff. Like one of the things I talked about in one of the videos, I think the Truth Frequency video I released 18 months ago or so, I was involved with webinars with Santos Bonacci, and there was this guy that he was working with that was like doing misguided hypnosis sort of stuff, and I gained a copy of Dolores Cannon, Past Life Regression. She does a hypnosis, and I got all this cold sweat because I realized this David dude was doing hypnosis on me in private conversations, and then I had someone's life to save, and I had to give away doing the right thing by me or the scenario before me. Like I've had these tests in my life where I could have made a lot of money, but I've done the right thing by people, and I am richer for it. And I wouldn't be here this being now to be able to perceive how I am if I had gone down these paths and made a lot of money. Like the poverty was a huge ally. What I realized about extreme wealth and poverty is that they're very similar, because the little things are the things that actually matter. If you can buy everything in the world, you don't really care about much but the little things. And if you don't have much, all the little things matter, and you don't really care about what you can't gain. But I know this poverty has an edge over greed and wealth, because you have pure absolute motivation in poverty. And that's the component from the emotional mastery I've always taken away from that. When you're wealthy and stuff, you don't need to go walk 5 or 10 kilometers to the supermarket. You can drive a car, or you can get it delivered, or you're just like, nah, don't need it, you know? But if it's like, I need to do this to eat, I need to get some food like vegetables or a barbecue chicken or something like that, you find the pure motivation to go and do it. So what I've appreciated about the journey of the poverty in mine was, I love the start of Batman Begins, like the 2005 movie with Christian Bale, about him going into the trenches of the truth of all aspects of humanity to understand them by being in it. And I would have never learnt that unless I had gone through this journey to be as solid and in my healer mode as I am now, if I had made a lot of money. So I'm very grateful for this being I am, to be able to do this stuff. And all these people that I've been through, they wouldn't have allowed me in unless I had the level of integrity, right, that I have, and the authenticity and the truth that I have, right? And they've done very misguided stuff against me and stuff, but it is what it is, and I'm stronger for it, right? So I really hope you gain a lot from this on many levels, whatever it is that you gain from it. It's quite long again. It's quite an outlier for me talking about the money system. It might be an orphan video just about the mystery, demystifying the Bitcoin mystery, Sotoshi Nakamoto ghost, and the context for all, or something like that. But I hope this is a very potent one for you. I hope it is a tool for you to see the reality and engage your pattern recognition, see what you were perceiving, see what you didn't know, and how rich you are now for this. And as always, I really hope you are going well. I appreciate you for allowing me to be an ally, a part of your journey, and a teacher. If you do believe what I say, and perhaps a ally in your healing journey to accelerate your infinite potential. But I'll leave it here, and maybe I'm doing this a bit early in the week, and if I get more context and more depth to this, I might add different components from a different day. But if that's not the case, then guys, until next time, enjoy this world how it is, and the context that I said, that we might be at a peak negative sort of stuff, and there's a trend change on the way. So we'll see how it is. I hope you're enjoying all the energies and taking you to a whole new level like I have lately. Best of luck, guys. Andre out.
November, heading for the city lights. 975, we're sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, pulsating in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can try a little adventure, love in the summer, follow the sun tonight, reminiscing of the times of life. For each every other, the feeling is stronger. Shock at 11, got lost in your eyes. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can you remember the human eyes? It was to where we'd energize, lie in the sand and visualize like it's 75 again. We are the people that rule the world, pulsating in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can try. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. I know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.